I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to be here with all of you. It's wonderful to visit such an extraordinary university as SMU. I want to thank the President for his very kind introduction. But most of all, I wanted to be sure to come to recognize and thank Laura Bush for her energy and her insights and her commitment to the women and girls of Afghanistan. Let me start with an observation that applies to women and girls everywhere, and that is giving women and girls a fair chance is more than the right thing to do. We've learned that gender equality is smart economics. And now we have increasing evidence about this, about the added benefits for families and children where income or support operates through the woman head of households, and the effects of property and legal rights and access to credit and savings and financial services. Some of the data is absolutely striking. In Brazil, we've learned that income in the hands of mothers increases the probability of children's survival 20 times. And when you look across area after area, you can see this key fact that this is not only the right thing to do, but it's smart economics. In the 1990s, I asked Bernard Lewis, someone I know that the President often spoke to, great scholar of the Arab world, originally from Britain, then came to the United States, about what was the one most important reason of some of the countries in the Arab world's failure to modernize. His answer? The treatment of women. And he said, how can a country begin to tap its full potential if it excludes half its citizens? So how do we get there? Well, the World Bank Group operates in over 120 countries. And for most of them, the economic empowerment of women begins with access to education, health care, the legal system, government structures. In Afghanistan, the starting point has been even simpler, ensuring the most basic human rights. Now, as you've heard, there have been some clear and some extraordinary improvements since 2002. But as all of you in this room know, particularly those from Afghanistan, there's still a long way to go, and there's been some recent backsliding. So let me just offer a few ideas from our experience at the World Bank Group. One of our most successful programs that was designed closely with the Afghan leaders was something called the National Solidarity Program. The idea is pretty simple. We make modest grants on the order of $30,000 to $40,000 for projects that are selected by communities. So it may be a micro hydro plant using some of the streams nearby a community. It may be schools, it may be irrigation, maybe local roads. The rate of return economically on these projects is about 20%. But the key idea is that the projects themselves are selected by community development councils where women have an equal representation, even if they meet separately. So some of the ones that I met, you'd meet the women's group and the men's group, but they participate together. These programs now exist in over 26,000 communities, every province of Afghanistan. Over 45,000 sub-projects have been completed. And they tell an amazing story. In one where the Taliban tried to attack a school, the villagers defended the school because it was their school, not a school for foreigners. And critically, it creates a voice for the community, including women. So it combines economic empowerment with political participation, and this is particularly important in rural areas where we're seeing some of the backsliding. It opens a way to greater attention and responsiveness to other local services. This is the first time ever in Afghanistan that women participate in local governance. So it also adds to the information they get about the development and services. One project I visited was a micro-hydro project, and so very small electricity. People then started to plug in their cell phones around the electricity generating site. Well, when I met the women's group, what was quite interesting, there were some women who had already started businesses about selling phone cards and other services. So because they knew about this activity, they could start to represent an entrepreneurial service. Now, this National Solidarity Program is now moving into its third phase. And it's critical that we continue to mainstream women's involvement in the process. But we can learn from this. So we're now building an Afghan Rural Enterprise Development Program. it's drawing on these community development councils that were done from the NSP. We have a pilot in 3 different provinces, 129 communities, and here again, women and men participate almost equally. Indeed, there's an Afghan woman who competed with Afghan men who's now the executive director of this program. And one of the things you learn is you need to be alert where there's special opportunities that develop. So for example, this program helps develop horticulture, livestock, but one of the things we've learned is that one of the most successful economic activities for women have been the poultry business. And there's over 11,000 women-operated units. And what's neat about this is that it not only creates additional income, but improves nutrition, and it connects them to various education about animal husbandry, or in this case, poultry, and ultimately empowerment. Or you could look at the area of microfinance, which I know many of you have an interest in, where about 60% of the clients are women in 27 of 34 provinces. We're also now working on a proposed fund for new market development in urban areas. This will try to complement for small and medium-sized enterprises what we do with the Solidarity Program in rural areas. And then you can use these community development councils as economic organizations, but to improve sense about legal outreach and education, and then connect the legal issues to economic livelihoods. And so perhaps there's some lessons here. The key to success of all the World Bank Group activities in Afghanistan, and we have billions of dollars of programs, some that come from a fund called IDA, which is for the very 79 poorest countries, some from a multi-donor trust fund that we manage for various contributors. So we're talking about $4, $5, $6 billion total over the past 10 years. But whether it's health, or it's education, or the Solidarity Program, or agriculture, or microfinance, or the mobile phones, it has to begin with Afghan ownership. You have to design it where the Afghans have the ownership role. And then you have to build on local capacity. Now, sometimes this sounds easier in concept than in reality because the capacity might be modest. But take a health program. One of the things that we did with the Afghan officials was to recognize that if you could build basic preventive health care all around the country, you'd have huge effects on infant mortality, women's health, some of the prenatal treatment. But, of course, you didn't have the capacity of the Afghan government to do this. So, in effect, the program outsourced through international and then Afghan NGOs. So you start to build the capacity in the center, but then you use other sources, but it's an Afghan-run program. So one of the temptations you see, whether it be bilateral programs, the United States, others, or the World Bank, is it's tempting for outsiders to say, look, we got to get this done quickly. We got to prove results. We'll work around, but it doesn't last. And so the key to these programs is how do you interconnect them with Afghan ownership? So in my view, it would be a very big mistake if you tried to advance the cause of gender equality in a way that was perceived as foreign, un-Islamic, or a challenge to the sanctity of the family. So one opportunity is to show in very practical terms how economic empowerment, how education, how women's voices and minds and work can improve the lives of families and communities. And I've seen this all over the world, in India, Africa, many, many poor places. And I often ask, well, how do your husbands feel about this? And normally there's a little skepticism at the start, but once people can start to improve income and improve livelihoods, people come along pretty fast. Now, there's no getting around the fact that security matters too. And what we're seeing is where security slips, it has a very, very bad effect on girls' enrollment in schools, on justice, on violence to women, and the disparity grows in those areas. But if we can expand security, and that's what the effort right now is all about, we and others can work with local communities on that basic principle, and that is gender equality is not only the right thing to do, but it's smart economics. Thank you.